just missed that.
Welcome, everyone, to another jam-packed episode of the Kick Him in the Head podcast. And as always, I have an absolutely jam-packed MMA episode for you. Without further ado, I think let's just get into it. Let's just get into this episode because I'm really excited about it. It was such an exciting fight week. So today, I will be talking about UFC 311, doing a review of UFC 311, previewing UFC Saudi Arabia happening this coming February, versus 11 happening on the 25th of January 2025, and then a quick review of what the EFC has planned for us in 2025. So exciting, a lot of new fight announcements. And then when it comes to MMA news, I'll be talking about the Bellator closure. I don't know if you've heard about that, but Bellator is closed for business. Then the new kid on the block, GFL, is in the spotlight, talking about GFL, what the promotion is, what the promotion looks like, the structure, who they've got on the promotion so far. Very interesting things happening over there. And then we have a look at Tracy, oh my gosh, Cortez, surname spelled wrong, versus Fiona Perez. The feud heats up. Now, let's get into it. First up, UFC 311. Now, UFC 311 happened this past Saturday. It was an absolutely stacked card. This card was very exciting. But what I really want to talk about here is how I did on my picks. I didn't do too bad. If I look at it, the two major upsets on this card, major upsets, the two right there, we have our Peyton Talbot and Rinya Nakamura, both 9-0. Peyton Talbot coming in at minus 1,200, Nakamura coming in at minus 900. Favorites, and they both lost on decision. It's absolutely mind-blowing. If you put money on either Gafarov or Barcelos to win, you definitely got the bag because those are major upsets. But these are my picks on the night. Now, if you've been watching the show, you know that I am on a underdogs competition with the Fight Week show. Very exciting competition. So we'll see next how I did. But the championship fights, the main card was great. We had Holland losing to the Ritter. I had that pick. We had the Moicano versus Dariush fight canceled, replaced by the Almeida versus Spivak fight, which I got right as well. Almeida, let's get it. Let's go. Yuri Prohaska versus Jamal Hill. Prohaska was the underdog, and he came through with the win there. One of my underdogs came through. Great fight there. Then we had Merab, the Machine, Devashvili versus Nurmagomedov. And unfortunately, Numar did not Nurmagomedov it. And Merab came through with a very, very impressive win, high-level, skilled win. He took Umar to deep waters, which he's never been in, and he got that win. I called it wrong. I had Umar. Merab got it. Shout out to the champ. And then Islam Makhachev showed that he is what we can call the lightweight GOAT. Record number of wins at lightweight when he took out Moicano. Renato Money Moicano. His first time in the title fight, but unfortunately he fell well short of the mark. It was a great card. Now, let's have a look at the underdogs competition. South Africa in the lead. Let's get it. Let's go. So with UFC 311, I scored the highest overall accuracy on this card. Mind you, last week I was tied last, 8 points, stuck at the bottom in the doldrums. This week came through 11 points, highest overall accuracy. Please do follow, like, subscribe at the Fight Week show on YouTube. We have a show coming up every Wednesday or Thursday, depending on if Arsenal's playing, because we're major Arsenal fans at the Fight Week show. So definitely do tune in to the Underdogs competition, which we have before every UFC event on a Friday. Now, the next thing we have coming up is UFC Saudi Arabia versus 11 and the EFC 2025 calendar. Now, starting with Versus. If you don't know what Versus is an amateur promotion out of South Africa that is looking to go pro. They had a few pro fights in their last fight night, Versus 10, and now Versus Fight Night 11 is here. Now, the reason we're talking about this, one of the exciting things about this is that it is headed up and run by a current UFC fighter in Cameron Simon, MSP. He is the owner of Versus. So they've been doing great things out in South Africa, and they have an event coming up on the 25th of January. So to anyone who is listening before that, please do follow them, comment on their page, go get tickets. Tickets are available through their Instagram page at Versus MMA Official. That's where you will find tickets to this event. Now, on this card, there are a few fights I want to talk about. Now, the main one I want to talk about is Jabo Kam versus Ibiwe. Enter the Ninja, the Southside Ninja in Patiwa. One of my favorite fighters at amateur. I have a great time with him. He's always commentating with me at the EFC events. Great fighter fighting out of Pandemonium Gym out in the West Rand, South Africa, in Joburg. So wishing him luck. I was just with Jabo Kam today, another great striker. It's a featherweight bout. So, these are very, very fit guys, very skilled strikers. So we'll see what they bring to the table. But I'm looking forward to seeing that fight. I do know both guys personally. Then we've got Ailin Perez versus Sisa Ngobesi. Ooh. Now, I've seen these guys fighting out at the MMA Nationals in South Africa in Durban last year. And very, very good fighters. Both very close to going pro. Ailin Perez here, I think I have him as a favorite. He's good, I would say, pretty much everywhere. His striking's improved. His groundwork is amazing, whereas Ngobese is more of a stand-up fighter. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Perez can get him to the ground. And I think after this fight, it's a title fight. One of these guys is definitely going pro. This featherweight bout is going to be electric. Then we have the title fight between TJ Esterhazen versus Sebastian Ferreira for the lightweight strap at Versus. And once again, both very skilled amateur fighters, both very experienced amateur fighters looking to go pro probably after this fight. Ferreira, stand up. His striking is phenomenal. Esterhazen, once again, grappler. So it's going to be very interesting to see how stylistically these two match up. But I'm really looking forward to this fight night. To anyone in and around the Gauteng area, do definitely get your tickets once again at Versus MMA Official on Instagram. Now, back to the UFC. Adesanya versus Imanov, the next UFC fight night coming up on the 1st of February. This fight night, and we chatted about this on the Dust Up Shakedown last week. This fight night is a great card. It's a very, very good card. We're wondering why they gave Dricus the card they gave him, because it's not as good as this card. And even if you look at when Dricus won the title, the card wasn't the best. And some of the opinion is that, look, Dricus is that big a star that he can carry a crappy card. But I don't really think that's the case. I think that he started giving him better cards. But coming back to this card here, Imanov versus Adesanya. Adesanya versus Imanov. Now, it is not a pay-per-view. It is just a fight night. And a lot of people ask the question, why is he on a fight night? I mean, he's a former champion. And the reason for that is he needs 5-round experience. He needs 5-round fights in order to keep at championship fighting level. So it makes sense for him to take a fight night rather than be a co-main or somewhere on a pay-per-view, which might pay him more, but the fight night keeps him title ready, title hungry, 5-round ready, showing that he's still at the highest level. So shout out to him for definitely taking this fight night. Going to be a great fight against him. Against Imanov. I've definitely got Izzy in this fight. I don't think Imanov can touch the style bender. The other fights on this card I want to talk about. Oh, we've got Shara Bullet, the Pirate, against MVP, Michael Venom Page. Stylistically, it's exciting. It's way more exciting than MVP versus Wonder Boy, because unfortunately Wonder Boy at this point, maybe prime Wonder Boy, but not current Wonder Boy. But MVP versus double back fist knockout, Shara Magomedov. I don't even know what these two are going to do in the octagon that night. I think on this night, in that fight, one of these guys might become a legend, because it's going to be a really exciting fight. Honestly, so far, it's the fight of the year for me. We are only on this, the third card of the year for the UFC, but definitely this one is shaping up, and I hope that they deliver. I hope that it's not a Manel Kape versus Muhammad Mukayev situation. And a few fights I want to talk about, other than those two fights, is the fight between Bojali Oki and the Pride of Palestine. The Pride of Palestine. Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi, who I'm sure will be ecstatic if he wins this fight, because obviously we know that Palestine has just signed a peace treaty with Israel, so I'm sure he'll be ecstatic. But Bojali Oki, good luck, bro. Fighting out of Belgium, Nigerian native, friend of the Fight Week show. Looking forward to that fight. And then T-Rex, Terrence McKinney. I love Terrence McKinney. T-Rex, I'm a fan. Love him on Twitter, but unfortunately, he is one of my favorite fighters because he gets knocked out by head kick a lot, which sucks, right? Because I love how he fights. So, Terrence, please don't get knocked out by head kick in this one. You better get that head. You better kick him in the head, Terrence, please. T-Rex, I'm rooting for you. Damir is a tough man. He's fighting Damir Hadzovic, record of 15-7. So the records are similar. It's going to be a very close fight, but T-Rex, I got you in this one. You're going to win by head kick. Let's go. Now, that's going to be UFC Fight Night, Adesanya versus Imanov. Now, coming to, as you know, my favorite promotion, the EFC. The EFC has just come out of their 2024 fight year, going into the 2025 fight year, which starts in March. So look out for their fights that are coming up. But these are the champions that they had going out of 2024, the champions at the end of 2024. If you look at all these champions here, only one of them is from the previous year. Every other champion here is a new champion, except for JT Lamprecht. He won in 2023. Luke Michael this year. Yeah, it's actually just Igor Cabeza with his featherweight strap. Everyone else is a new champion from 2024 in the EFC. So let's see what they can continue. All these champions. Let's see who can retain. Let's see what this picture looks like at the end of 2025. It's a calendar year, a fight year I'm really looking forward to. If you're looking to catch the EFC anywhere, these are the dates where they will be having their events throughout the year of 2025, starting with EFC 121 on Thursday, the 6th of March, and ending with EFC 130 on Thursday, the 4th of December. That is a 10 card fight year. We have 10 cards for fighters to show us what they've got in South Africa, one of the best promotions on the continent. Let's hope that one of these isn't in the PI, because we've talked a lot about the fact that the EFC needs to move outside of the PI that they have here in Johannesburg and start to do events in places like Cape Town, maybe Durban, or maybe somewhere continental. You know, Nigeria is doing a lot with MMA. They could go to West Africa. Mauritius is doing a lot. Brave has been there a few times. So we're hoping that this year they'll actually get out of their PI and move further than TV, let's say, because at this point, unfortunately, it is just a TV show. It is not really a promotion until they start to sell tickets. So I'm hoping that that happens this year. And as popped up, we have a few fights announced, some very, very exciting fights. We have Ayanda the Power Zwana against Billy the Kid Oosthuizen in a featherweight scrap. That's going to be a good one. Both of these guys are looking to possibly vie again for a title shot. Ayanda might be 1 or 2 fights out, same as Billy. Whoever wins this one will then be the #1 contender to say, I have a shout. Whoever's next, it should be me or one more fight. So great fight there. Then we've got Hanro Bota versus Kaleka Block Kabanda. That's going to be a violent fight. Looking forward to that one. We have the recent debutant JD Van der Merwe versus Mark Kamba. I say Van der Merwe. That's going to be a slugfest. That middleweight bout is going to be heavy. JD Van der Merwe, let's go. Then we have 3 title fights announced so far. Anthony Biggie Morrell is going to defend the heavyweight championship against Elvis the Bomba Moyo. Now, we don't get treated to heavyweight fights at this level very often. The Bomber, very experienced, heavy hitter, big striking. He hasn't fought for a while. He was supposed to get the shot against Triple H, Jikasa, who relinquished the title, which was then won by Anthony Biggie Morrell out of the Seychelles. And oh my goodness, this title fight is going to be insane because Anthony Biggie Morrell fights at such a high level. His grappling, his wrestling, his striking, he is good everywhere. Moyo's got insane power, his striking capability, his striking accuracy, his feet, his head movement. I don't know where this fight's going to go, but I think if it stays on the feet, the Bomber might just bomb him. But I think if Anthony can keep close, get the clinch, punches in the clinch, a few good knees, a few good shots to the body, destabilize Moyo, that's how he's going to win this fight. But I'm very, very excited about that title fight, that heavyweight title fight. Then we've got Rudy Roots. He is back. Relentless Rudy Roots taking on the takeover Ken Sekeletu. With how Rudy won the title against Ayanda, where it had to go all the way to the judges, and we all thought that the Ultimate Fighter, Rudy Roots, was going to wipe the floor with Ayanda Zwane, whereas that didn't happen. This is a title fight that we're all really looking forward to see because Ken Sekeletu has been blazing a trail in the EFC since he arrived last year. Ken Sekeletu has been blazing an absolute trail since he arrived in the EFC. He has taken down every single opponent. I'm not sure how this fight's going to go at this moment. I'll make a call closer to EFC 121. But I'm not sure how Rudy is going to take the power from Ken. What a pun, because he beat the power. But that's going to be a very interesting fight. Then we've got Faiz, the troublemaker Jacobs versus Sibusiso Somedle. Sibusiso finally getting his title shot. He beat one of the absolute fan favorites, one of the most skilled fighters in the UFC right now, flyweight and bantamweight, in the form of Intando Zondi. And now he gets a title shot. It shows when you beat someone at that level, this is the reward. You get a title shot. So he has now gotten the title shot against Faiz Jacobs. Faiz has been ready for this defense for a while. He has been blazing a trail as well through the EFC since his return to the EFC. The former bantamweight champion, two-time bantamweight champion. I don't know. I think he retains his title. Let's see what Sibusiso's got. But then again, that's what I said when Sibusiso was going to go up against Intando Zondi, and we saw what happened there. I was completely wrong. Completely wrong. So maybe I'm underestimating Sibusiso, but with the experience of Faiz Jacobs, the level of Faiz Jacobs, I think that's what's making me go Faiz Jacobs. Just the experience. But then again, Sibusiso beat Ruvan De Beer. Very, very experienced fighter. So once again, Sibusiso, you've proven me wrong at least 2 times. Let's see if you can do it again. Let's see, because you are him where you say you are, because you come through and you get the wins. But those are the fights announced in the EFC so far. Now, one of my favorite segments of this show is the Fighter of the Week.
Fighter of the Week. Fighter of the Week.
Nice pop from the...
And here we have my Fighter of the Week, Ailin Perez. Yes.
Nice pop from
Fiona Perez, female fighter out of the UFC, is my Fighter of the Week. Now, the question is, why is she my Fighter of the Week? She is my Fighter of the Week for multiple reasons. Now, if you're paying attention at the top of the show, we have the Underdogs competition that we are running on the Fight Week show. Do watch it every Friday before a UFC event, whether it be a pay-per-view or a fight night. We have the prediction show on the Fight Week show. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. But Fiona Perez was my underdog. She was a plus 200 underdog, and she came through. And where it comes to the points in that competition, you get 3 points for an underdog win, 1 point for a normal win. So she took me to the top. She perked me to the top. Yes, Fiona, let's get it. And I really have a soft spot for the name Fiona. Thus, she is my fighter of the week, Ailin Perez. Now, we're going to go into a little bit of MMA news, some very interesting things happening in the MMA world so far this January. And the most interesting thing, the one that we will start with, is the closure of Bellator. Then we'll talk about the Global Fight League, the new MMA promotion that has recently started. And then we will talk about Cortez versus Perez once again. And yes, you heard it, Perez. She's a definite theme on this show. The closure of Bellator. RIP Bellator. 2008 to 2025. So the PFL recently announced the closure of Bellator. If you don't know, Bellator was one of the rival promotions to the UFC. They existed from 2008, and they had quite a few high-level fighters coming in at the beginning. For example, Yuri Prohaska's fought there. Obviously, the guy who just beat Jamal Hill. We have quite a few stars that had come through. Michael Chandler, who had come through Bellator. They were recently acquired by the PFL. And on being acquired, we all asked, what's going to happen? This doesn't make sense. How are you going to run the two formats between Bellator and the PFL? And now it's come to bear that there were no two formats. Bellator is dead. It has met its end. We're not too sure how fans feel about it around the world. No one's really seeming sad about it, but we do have fighters who are talking about it, who are giving us insight as to what happened in the closure. Now, we had one of the Bellator fighters, Corey Overtime Anderson, saying on X, imagine being the champion of an organization, chilling on the couch, and your wife walks in and tells you, did you see this? Bellator is dead now. And all you can do is shrug your shoulders in confusion because you still haven't heard a thing. Lol. Yeah, that was me. So here he's expressing how he didn't even know Bellator was closed. Apparently the PFL just shut down Bellator, didn't communicate with all the fighters. Mind you, they had done a migration of some of their fighters from Bellator to PFL, where now some of their fighters were fighting under the PFL label, not Bellator. But you had former champions, you had champions, Bellator champions, who had no idea that this was happening. They thought Bellator was still a going concern. We had Patricio Pitbull, one of the poster boys of Bellator, being left out in the cold. He said on X, former Bellator lightweight champion, most wins in the lightweight division, and most KOs in company history. I'll never forget all the amazing moments I had with the organization and a couple of fun fights on PFL. I'm excited for what will be coming next. Before that, just a few minutes before that, he tweeted, today I turned 39 years old and I have a lot to be thankful for. It's symbolic for me as I decided to start a new chapter in my career. Per my request, I was released from PFL. Thank you for the memories, Bellator. Stay tuned for my next fight news. Now, the MMA world is clamoring because we don't know where fighters like Corey Anderson and Patricio Pitbull are going to end up. But there is a chance that they end up at the UFC. And if that happens, we potentially have 39-year-old coming to the UFC is not that exciting. But we had a 35-year-old Michael Chandler coming in. You know, there was some hype. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a little bit of excitement. Maybe he'll come through the Ultimate Fighter as a coach. have a few fights in UFC, 1-2 fights, legacy fights, who knows? But very interesting that PFL would go about treating fighters this way. And Patricio actually called out, and quite a few fans have called out people like Francis Ngannou and say, where is Francis in all this when fighters are being treated like this, being sidelined, having contracts being dishonored without any protection? Where are those voices now? But we'll see where they end up. We'll see whether they come at all, whether there's any fighters that managed to win any sort of lawsuits because they're claiming that their contracts were voided illegally. There was breach. Let's see. However, just this coming Saturday, we do have a PFL event, but featuring a Bellator champion in Said Nurmagomedov. So very fascinating how Bellator has dissolved instantly, and they're already having championship series with the Bellator fighters in the PFL. Well, at least now we have the answer. They're going primarily with the league structure, where you fight, you get points, you get seeded, you move on. Okay, cool. Speaking of which, this PFL event is going to be a very interesting one. We have Said Nurmagomedov, one loss last weekend. Let's see if this one can do any better against Paul Hughes, who's an exciting fighter out of Ireland. He was picked as McDane's fighter of the week a few weeks ago when we were on the show. Electric fighter, really looking forward to that fight. And then we have a friend of the Fight Week show, Kenny Mukonwana. He is back. The Black Diamond is back. And he is fighting someone who will sound familiar if you've watched The Cage on Netflix. Ibrahimov, which is basically the name of the antagonist in the show The Cage on Netflix. Ibrahimov. Going to be a very interesting, exciting fight. Looking forward to that one. Shout out to Kenny. Let's get it. Let's go. Behind you all the way. We know you got this one. But if you're looking forward to PFL events, there is one happening this coming Saturday, 25th of January, 2025. Do look out for it. And now, speaking of the PFL, we have another FL being created. But this time, it's the Global Fight League, the GFL. Not the PFL, GFL. Cool. Another fight league. So it seems like the UFC is the only one that's managed to go on a roster situation or roster basis where it is fight who's there, you get the spot, you go up, you fight. That's it. It seems like a lot of the guys who are trying PFL specifically, very specifically PFL and now GFL, because as you'll see, it was actually created by the same guy who was recently CEO of the PFL. But let's go into the structure very quickly. So how the GFL will work is that it will be based on a league structure where there'll be 6 cities vying for championship position. Now, whether you can run a league structure with fighting, because the PFL is doing it, but from what we're seeing, it's kind of working, but we're not very interested in it. It's not very interesting. So let's see if they can make this interesting. But from how they seem to have structured it, it looks like they're going with a format similar to that of the Ultimate Fighter / NFL. And if I look at their logo, it looks like they borrowed from the NFL as well. But how it is fighters selected by each city. Interesting. Let's see. Now, coming back to where the GFL comes from. The GFL was co-founded by Darren Owen, Ailin Perez, and Scott Parker. Now, the one we're going to focus on a little bit is Darren Owen, because Darren Owen is the former CEO of the PFL, and now he's come and created the GFL. He's also got very strong background in having created multiple promotions. I think he created 2 out in Canada, 2 successful ones, and then ran the PFL. So he's very seasoned in running or building MMA promotions. One interesting thing about this, other than the league structure, is how they want to address fighter compensation, fighter welfare, and look at pioneering a 50-50 revenue sharing model with the fighters. Now, we know that was one of the major sticking points for Francis Ngannou, and one of the reasons that he left the UFC is fighter pay, how the contracts are structured, health insurance, and basically plans to make sure that fighters can fight for long and stay healthy. Now, the GFL is saying that they want to address this. We've seen the PFL saying they wanted to address it, and he's the former president of or CEO of the PFL. But if they weren't able to address it there, how will they be able to address it here? I wonder what structural or ownership differences between the PFL and the GFL will allow them to achieve it here, because they're also saying that they will take the fighters as employees. Now, I'm not sure how all that's going to work, whether it's actually going to be viable for the fighters to take up contracts like this, but they have their first draft tomorrow, 24th of April, which could be today when this episode is released. Cool. But let's see how that goes. I'm very, very interested to see, especially because it seems like they'll be very geared for a TV audience to grow with fighters. And that's what's really exciting about the GFL is once you go to a draft, you see a fighter coming from the start of what is likely to be a gloriously major career, hopefully. You get to grow with them. And once you do that, you're bordering on reality TV. And I think that's what they might be trying to plug into with this structure. Whereas the UFC is going for best fighter. If you beat the best, you are the best. It's that simple. That's what we're selling. It seems like the GFL might try and sell the angle of the story, selling the fighters themselves, their story, their lives, how they came through each team, etc., how they came through the draft. And that I think is where their value will lie. But let's see. Let's see what happens. We never know. So far, some of the fighters that have signed for them, some interesting ones are Mauricio Rua, Damir Ismagulov. If you do know him from the UFC, he's a great fighter. Maria Agapova, we've covered her a few times. Nicholas Barna, Carolina Oswartz, and Farid Iran Nezad. Some interesting mix of fighters that they've gotten up so far. But they have announced as well the coaches for the 6 cities that will be hosting the GFL teams. Now, the 6 cities are Dubai, Sao Paulo, London, Los Angeles, Miami, and New York. Some interesting names there. For example, New York, Ray Longo. We know Ray Longo. He has held the bantamweight title for a long time between Aljamain Sterling and Merab the Machine Tvaishvili. So very interesting to have him as the coach for New York in there. We've got Wanderlei Silva, who we know, legendary rivalry with Charles Sonnen. Wanderlei Silva, I mean, very, very interesting to have him as a coach. Cain Velasquez, Lyoto Machida. Like, it's going to be very interesting to see how this mix of fighters trains and develops the next generation that's coming up and how they make this very interesting. And that's why I think this is going to be more of building your stars from the ground up and then shining with them. But once again, let's see. Now, the topic of the day that is spicy is Ailin, Fiona Perez, and Tracy Cortez. Their feud is heating up, ladies and gentlemen. It is getting hot in here where it comes to these two and their engagements. Now, this feud started over an Instagram post. Yes, of course. The world we live in, what else would it have been? When Tracy Cortez had to cut her hair to make weight, she was very emotional about it. And Ailin Perez commented on Instagram, on an Instagram story, saying, "Wow," at Cortez MMA. Now, she added Tracy. So this was a direct dig. Wow, at Cortez MMA, you really had to cut your hair to make weight. You were gifted an amazing opportunity to be a main card event versus a former UFC champion, and you barely made it. Lol. What a waste of an opportunity. You are showing your lack of preparation for a moment so big. Ooh. Spicy. To which Cortez promptly responded, y'all won't catch me talking here on social media, but my oh my, how the tables have turned. 136.6. Lol. The OnlyFans will help you with that 20% deduction. Now, this was Cortez's response eventually when Perez missed weight in her fight. So she said, listen, I see you have the same problem. How the tables have turned. How dare you comment on me like that? And look at you now. Now, the reference to the 20% OnlyFans is that Ailin Perez is also an OnlyFans content creator. So that was a direct dig at Perez's other form of income by Cortez. Now, time has gone by. Time has gone by. And now it is heated up to the point where this is where the feud is. We have Ailin Perez winning this past weekend by decision. Like I said, once again, my plus 200 underdog, my dog of the week, she came through. When asked at the press conference if she heard or if she had a run-in with Tracy Cortez, her response was, she was just trying to provoke me, because she did have a run-in with Tracy Cortez. But her response was, she was just trying to provoke me. Please don't name her like she's dirty. She crazy. Like every time she sees me, she'll jump me. I think she wants to be me. She cannot believe how beautiful I am. And then because I speak Spanish and the translator didn't say it, she then said, and look at my ass, is gorgeous. So shout out Ailin Perez. To which Tracy Cortez promptly responded on her socials, I don't talk shit for clout. I'm from the hood. I didn't start the I'm from the hood. If you're going to talk stand by it, because I'm standing 10 toes down. When I see you after this fight, was Tracy Cortez's response on the social. So one thing that makes me very, very excited about this feud is the fact that we always talk about WMMA not being exciting enough. For me, this is an exciting fight. This is a fight that makes us as fans want to watch this fight, want to watch WMMA to see how these ladies scrap, how they get down, how they solve the feud, because we see men's beef all the time. We haven't had a solid female beef in a while. We've got Juliana Pena, Kayla Harrison. It's trash talk, but this one is personal. So, and ironically, personal about fighting. So, absolutely perfect. I think it's simmered perfectly. When they let these two ladies get at each other, we're all going to watch. It is going to be an absolutely scintillating fight. I can't wait to see these two taking each other on. Now, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you, everyone. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this with all your friends. We are at Head Kick Pod on all platforms. Looking forward to all the MMA we have coming out. We have, obviously, like I said, we've got Imanov versus Adesanya. What's going on with my screen? Oh my gosh, fix it. There we go. We've got Imanov versus Adesanya coming up. We've got Versus 11. We've got EFC coming up beginning of March. Can't wait for this fight year. This is our first show of the year. So to everyone listening, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe at Head Kick Pod on all platforms. Until the next episode, kick him in the head.